Traditional cultures that have been carried on for centuries are meant to be something noble and holy. So it's said that we must not seek money, but we should do it with a heart of service. But then why do Japanese people think that making money is evil? Minasan konnichiwa, and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. Recently, a Katana Swordsmith tweet blew up. Please spread the word. Is there anyone who would like to become an apprentice of a Katana Swordsmith? We have the will and the environment to raise students. Please contact me through DM. In the world of Japanese craftsmanship that has a very formal and stiff image, I personally think it's a great thing that he sent out messages in this way on social media. However, the specific conditions of the training offended many people. The apprenticeship will last approximately 10 years. Working hours will be 8:30 to 6:30 on weekends. There is no salary. Weekends are usually holidays, but it's uncertain. Prepare your food and clothes on your own. You are allowed to do part-time jobs for money, but your training period may be extended. As a response to this, the following replies were given by some people. No salary, no livelihood support, but training for 10 years? How can you possibly survive? Traditions like this have to disappear. It's sad, but they don't have the necessary environment. No one would be stupid enough to work in conditions worse than a prison. These ones are rather nice. And there were many more that used much dirtier language. What did you feel when you read these? This debate expresses the fundamental problem that is the cause of the current demise of traditional Japanese craftsmanship. Unless we solve this problem, it won't be long until the precious skills that have been carried on for centuries to completely disappear. So today, I will point out the two main reasons why this tweet blew up and explain from a historical point of view why such problems happen in the first place. Lastly, I'll share my opinions on what we need to do in order to pass down Japanese traditional culture to the future. I hope this video will be useful for those who are especially interested in Japanese traditional culture to deepen your understanding towards the current situation. Also, after watching this video, please let me know your opinions on ways how we can solve this problem. And before I start, I need to make it very clear that the purpose of this video is not to criticize the craftsman who made this tweet, but just for me to share my ideas with you based on what I've studied. I really admire him for opening the world of katana craftsmanship to the public, and I really hope that his business will be even more successful. In this channel, you can take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on travel in Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. それでは本日も参りましょう。The two biggest problems of this tweet was that they're trying to make their apprentices work without any salaries for more than 10 years, while calling this a shugyo boshu and saying that we have an environment ready to accept apprentices. By the way, due to the backlash, they have now changed it from calling it recruiting for employment to voluntary training. Problem number one. Whether this recruitment is a job or not is ambiguous. In a way, if you think of this recruitment as a vocational school, being able to train for free might actually sound nice. But considering the fact that the instructor or master will earn money from the jobs that his apprentices will do for him, criticisms pointing out that they are using unpaid employees would seem inevitable. Because this does mean that, for example, if a craftsman just wanted someone to do miscellaneous tasks for him, it is possible for him to say that this is not a recruitment for workers but voluntary trainees, and make them work without paying them anything. No teacher at a vocational school will earn money from the work that was submitted by their students, right? It's sad, but we also can't ignore the fact that the future of katana swordsmiths isn't that bright either. In other words, while the apprentices will be forced to undergo a 10-year period of unpaid training, they have absolutely no guarantee of stable income in the future. Who could volunteer for 10 hours each day for 5 days or more per week? If the swordsmiths seriously want to have someone to carry on their skills and culture, they should financially support their apprentices during the training period, just like a normal company would do for their workers. However, surprisingly, this follows the Japanese traditional way of apprenticeship. For example, the training of Maiko in Kyoto is very similar. Maiko will have to work for about 5 years without any salary either, and the money they raise will be paid to the Ukiyoe houses they belong to. They also only have a few days off work per year, and popular Maiko may work past midnight every day to entertain their guests. There was much debate as to whether it is acceptable to make young girls work in such a way that completely disregards the labor laws. The owners of Maiko houses have explained that because the Maiko are not workers, but apprentices, students training to become professional entertainers, the modern labor laws cannot be applied. However, the work that Maiko do completely falls under the category of labor defined by the Japanese law. So this is a very gray area of discussion. One very big difference between Katana Swordsmiths and Maiko, though, is that the Ukiyoe will provide a place to live, food, clothes, and training to the young girls, so that they will not have to pay anything to start training. So you can understand that's a little bit more fair. However, for this recruitment, the students will have to train for more than 10 years, double the amount of time, without any financial or livelihood support. In the past, there were many swordsmiths who could afford their apprentices' daily expenses, but due to the whole katana industry shrinking, most people can't do that anymore. Nevertheless, it is clear that these conventional methods and systems of training are becoming less and less suitable for modern society. Problem number 2. Why do they say they can accept apprentices when they can't even pay for them? Would you have the courage to say that you're recruiting people to work or volunteer 5 days a week, 10 hours each, when you can't even give them any rewards? You would probably think, just like the people who replied to the tweet, that no one will be able to apply. But why do the people in the world of traditional craftsmanship not realize this? There is one fundamental reason that creates such a situation. It's because, especially in the world of traditional culture in Japan, there is still an outdated belief that earning money is despicable and vulgar. Traditional cultures that have been carried on for centuries are meant to be something noble and holy. So it's said that we must not seek money, but we should do it with a heart of service. It is completely out of the question, especially in a society like Japan where hierarchical relationships are strictly enforced, for a subordinate, lower person or a trainee to ask for money. I would say that there's even a notion that inferior people deserve to struggle or have a hard time. However, no matter how much we praise traditional culture, there's no doubt that it is a business. If you can't earn money to make a living, it's pretty obvious that no one will be able to carry on the culture. For example, mine instructors may be suddenly called by the headmasters of their ryuha and not be paid anything, or perform at big events and not being paid a single yen. Even the people who dedicate their whole lives to the arts are treated like this, and hardly anyone is questioning the situation. But then, why do Japanese people think that making money is evil? And why is it even worse in the world of traditional culture? While there are many different theories, I'd like to introduce to you the one that I personally believe in. Have you ever heard of the famous samurai Tokugawa Ieyasu? Yes, he's the man who was the final winner of the 250-year-long Sengoku War era and established the following peaceful Edo period, which lasted for more than 200 years. The reason why his family was able to govern Japan for 15 generations peacefully was due to their absolute control system. Tokugawa Ieyasu watched the failure of two great men in Japanese history, Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Nobunaga was killed by a subordinate due to financial troubles, and Hideyoshi's downfall was caused by the impossible expedition to Korea planned to expand the economy. Ieyasu knew that if the people had too much money, they will eventually start riots and peace will soon be destroyed. So he not only instilled in people that superiors and elders are always a priority by teaching them Neo-Confucianism, he also taught them that money is filthy. He clearly separated the people by their social classes and kept the merchants who had the most amount of money the lowest, and the samurai who were on top were forced to live poor lives. And people of the craftsman class were taught that the virtue of craftsmanship was to focus on creating products of higher quality and not about earning money. That's why they would hardly ever sell their own products at markets on their own, but that was the merchant's job. By the way, did you know that these samurai salaries were paid by rice? This isn't because back at that time we didn't have a currency. They did have money too. It was to prevent the samurai from being able to save any money by paying them with a rotting currency, so they will never get rich. And even the few amounts of money were forced to be used at occasional events, such as the Sankin Kotai, the parade to the Edo castle. It has been more than 150 years since the Edo period ended, but this way of thinking is still present today. I often get comments saying, how can such an old custom possibly be carried on till today? However, this is especially because after the Edo period ended and the major restoration started, in order for Japan to maintain its independence and identity in the international world, it started to emphasize its original culture like Bushido. Because of this, whenever you talk about money, there will be some people who will criticize you saying that you have forgotten your pride as a Japanese, or tell you how vulgar you are. Even today, more than 80% of teenagers answered in a survey that they think money is dirty due to the lack of education and the image that the media transmits. Japanese people are also said to be the worst in the world at asking their company for a raise, and as a result, the average wage has not gone up for decades, resulting in everyone becoming poor. Other data shows that only about 20% of those eligible for public assistance actually receive financial support. These things also happen due to the idea of trying to earn more money is vile, and living by someone else's money is greedy and pathetic. Thinking of it this way, it seems many citizens still remain in a mindset that is convenient for those in power. If such a situation continues, it will not take a long time for the art of crafting katana to completely disappear. A real katana swordsmith that I've met told me that there were about 300 swordsmiths in Japan 5-10 years ago, but now there are only about 200. This means it could be less than 20 years until there will be no one making real katana anymore. As a katana lover and trainee, I never want such a thing to happen. Then what can we do to stop it from happening? This is my opinion, but I believe more katana swordsmiths must try to create new businesses based on their skills. Yes, this is exactly what goes against the earning money is dirty idea that we've been talking about today. But we need to remember, why has any of the so-called traditional culture that we cherish so much today been able to be carried on to this day? It's because the skills were needed by society back in the time, and many people could make a living by doing it. Katana skills were actually used in real life because there were people outside with real katana on their waists. The tea ceremony was deeply related to politics and economy, and the no theater was the government-approved samurai ceremony, for example. Through the few centuries of all traditional cultures, only today has it been done just because it's important and it should be carried on. No one will obviously do it anymore if there aren't any actual benefits. This has a few centuries of history, or this is our identity, is surely not enough for the younger generations to dedicate their lives to the culture. If no one wears katana swords outside anymore or doesn't understand the values of Japanese swords like in the past, you shouldn't expect that you'll be able to survive just by doing things the conventional way. We must constantly change to adapt to the new era and seek new possibilities. There might be some people who would get upset, but I'd like to ask you, what's your choice? Destroying a culture that our ancestors have preserved for centuries in our generation because of unnecessary pride, or fighting to carry it on to our descendants no matter what it takes? I, at least, would answer the latter option. There are hundreds of possible business opportunities for katana swordsmiths. For example, the katana swordsmith that I mentioned earlier not only makes katana and sells them, but also provides one-time experiences for visitors of touring the workplace and making small knives. Maybe you can make a YouTube channel explaining the steps of making katana, or making certain katana that you've gotten requests from your viewers. I think more and more craftsmen should hold such activities, and more people should support those who challenge new things and not pull them down. I'm sure there are tons of obstacles for the swordsmiths that I can't imagine, but I strongly believe there will be hundreds and thousands of people who will be willing to learn more about katana making. And if the swordsmiths have more money, they might be able to financially support their apprentices who train under them. I understand that it's not that easy, but I think that would be a very positive cycle. Then lastly, today's conclusion. Recently, a Katana Swordsmith tweet blew up because he was recruiting people to work as apprentices for 5 days a week, 10 hours each, with no pay for 10 years. This especially became a problem because of two main reasons. One, whether this recruitment is a job or not is ambiguous. Although you must dedicate almost all your time to the training, there will be no financial or livelihood support. In a way, if we think of this as a school, it might be understandable, but there were some people pointing out that it's not fair that instructors will be able to make money with the jobs their apprentices will do for them. 2. They say they can accept apprentices when they can't even pay for them. In Japan, there's a conventional belief that has existed since the Edo period that earning money is vulgar for the shogunate to prevent people from getting too rich. So people working in the world of traditional culture are expected to do their jobs with a heart of service. Especially in a society like Japan where hierarchical relationships are strictly enforced. It is completely out of the question for a subordinate or lower person like a trainee to ask for money. Every traditional culture that exists today has been carried down to this day thanks to our ancestors adapting and evolving their methods and systems to suit that era. We should do the same by trying to create as many businesses as we can with the skills we have, so that we can support the younger generation who are interested in becoming the next generation of katana swordsmiths. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you thought that my opinions were interesting to listen to, it'd be great if you could hit the like button to help me boost this video to more viewers. And please check out our sub-channel and membership through the link inside the description box. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. 皆さんどうもありがとうございました。So I always say that my dream is to make all Japan lovers' dreams come true, and in order to achieve this dream, one of the things I always say that I want to do is to preserve and evolve traditional culture. And one of the really important things I think that I must do when I try to aim for this dream or to make this goal a reality is what I explained in the main part of today's video, trying to create as many businesses as possible. So in Japan, it's considered a big taboo to think of traditional culture and businesses together. It's just thought of as something really vulgar. So I saw that, for example, while I was working in the tourism industry. If there were people, for example, providing cultural experiences to tourists, they would be looked down upon by some other groups, for example, so on and so forth. Basically, cheaply selling the traditional culture or whatever it is. But I think that's I'm personally completely against that, because back in the time in Japan, it was something common that everyone can do. Today, we call it a traditional culture because it has such a long history, but originally it was created for making more people happy or making the society run better or making the environment better and all of these things, right? Yeah. So if the so-called traditional culture doesn't have any benefits in the modern world today, then there is no purpose of it existing, right? If we say we want to preserve it, we need to create as many benefits for the people living in the society today. So I understand, as a man who's training in 5 different traditional cultures today, I completely understand that there are some things that must be kept the same to try to carry down the really important teachings of traditional culture, because there are some important ideas, mindsets, beliefs that should be taught to the next generation too. I completely understand that. But also at the same time, the methods and systems definitely need to match how society is run today. So that's why I always say I want to try to create as many businesses as possible. YouTube and this channel, you guys are watching my channel right now, this channel is just one of the things I wanted to do. By talking about traditional culture, by showing you guys the skills that I have, for example, and being able to support many people. Yeah, this is one of the things I want to do. So in the future, I want to challenge myself in the tourism industry, maybe selling merchandise, all of these different things. And I want to show the younger generation that you can make a living with traditional culture, basically. So that there's a lot of people, like teenagers or 20s, that love traditional culture, like it could be Iaido or the Buddha martial arts or all of these kind of things. But they think, well, I can't make a living with this. I can't make a living with calligraphy. I can't make a living with traditional dancing because we're not, allowed to make so much money from it, right? But I'm trying to show different ways that you could make that a reality. Yeah. I will probably be facing a lot of obstacles because there are so many organizations that will go against me, against my thoughts, my beliefs, but I'm really hoping that I'll be able to change the world of traditional culture just a little bit through these activities, So again, it'd be great if you can continue to support me. And also, at the end, I want to emphasize one more time that this is my personal opinion. Yeah. If you listen to someone who believes that businesses and traditional culture should be completely separated, you might be convinced by their opinion too. So please just think that, so there's this one Japanese dude on YouTube saying this, please understand it that way. And what I'm explaining about is just one 28-year-old who's been training in traditional culture for less than a decade talking about these things. So please understand that. Yeah, that's something really important. But anyways, thank you so much for listening till the end.